therapy is focused on the client. It's not about us, it's about the client. So that's a given. However, how do we know what's happening with the client? And how do we actually manage to be present in such a way that we can be focused on the client? So if we dismiss our own reactions as unimportant, and if we're not in touch with them, is actually when we are, in a place of danger because we're not aware of who we are. In the therapy, what's happening is there's not just two people. There's the client, there's the therapist, and there's a whole space around it. And it's very difficult and actually impossible to say with any certainty, this is what's happening with the client, this is what's happening with the therapist, or this is what's happening in the space. So we have, paying attention to what I feel as a therapist is my way of connecting to what's in the room. It does not mean it is objectively what's in the room, but it's the one access I have. So I'm in touch with my reaction. I can have hypotheses as to what the client is. If I feel that anger in the room, it does not mean that the client is angry, or whatever, but it's a working hypothesis. And again, very related to what we were talking about before in the moment by moment thing. The beauty of focusing is that it allows us to have moment by moment experiments based on what is happening with myself. I create a working hypothesis that's going to be most of the time intuitive, sometimes, thought out, but very often intuitive. And to act in a certain way that in the interaction with the client, something happens that helps orient, what's happening in the room. Okay. So I think that's how I would describe the sense of the articulation of the different concepts of client therapy.
Yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to add, which is that what I notice in particular with focusing, maybe more than other ways of working, is that what happens is there becomes not a me and a you as a separate thing, but there's a relational field that gets created so that both are participating. And so I mean, maybe this is similar to what Serge was saying about there being it's not just a me and a you, and it's not always easy to tell the difference when this starts happening. It's quite a it's hard to put more words to it because it's really very much a feeling, but there's a feeling sense that's shared when this is really working. And then what arises, I think in each dyad is also unique. So there's a way that when I sit with you, Jen, or you, Jan, maybe like the things that come up through that connection are going to be quite different and quite amazing. And there's a quote, I don't have the whole piece, but there's something that Jen said about for a while, if somebody is, struggling for whatever reason, that they can only be truly it says, I can only be truly myself when I'm with you. And I can think of times when I've been with people who bring out just this incredible feeling of flow and creativity that I don't have all by myself. And so part of it is really tapping into that flow where this, the collection of the dyad, the two, is greater than the sum of its parts. And then it's like, well, everything is, that really takes place is in that field, and it feels quite generative when that happens.
I think working with the autonomic nervous system is also an incredibly helpful way of understanding, explaining, being with these states that happen inside us. So if we feel that one of our clients is in fight, for example, really needing to defend themselves, and we notice what happens in us, and that's very important. It's incredibly important because, we pick up on that, right? It's like it's contagious. We feel into each other's physiological state. So we want to really honor what ours is, and it can be very frightening, especially if you're new and your client's angry at you. That can be really scary. It takes a lot of skill to be able to really welcome that and be curious about it. And it just gives you this space to be able to do that and be curious about it. That's one of the things I love about working with the autonomic nervous system and really naming it, is that, you know, we just say, oh, my body went into fight, you know, and okay, let's look at that. Let's talk about what happened there. And what does it mean when that happens? Did you feel some kind of threat or some kind of lack of safety or judgment or evaluation? Bodies don't like that. It's just a way of being beside the experience. And once we can be beside it, then we can learn how to manage it, the closeness and the distance of it. So yeah. I think, you know, working with the ANS is just invaluable for that.